As I stepped into the frozen labyrinth, the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. We were on a mission to locate a lost expedition that had gone missing years ago. But as we made our way through the winding tunnels, something didn't feel quite right. My heart was pounding as I took cautious steps forward, the crunching snow echoing off the walls around me. Suddenly, one of my colleagues cried out in terror as he stumbled over some ice. He lay motionless on the ground, his eyes staring blankly at the ceiling above him. Panic set in as I realized we were no longer alone down here. Something sinister lurked in these tunnels, waiting for us to make a wrong move. As I helped my fallen comrade to his feet, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. Every time I turned around, I saw strange shapes darting out of the corners of my eye, but whenever I looked directly at them, they vanished without a trace. Whatever was in those tunnels wanted us to think we were going crazy. And then came the howling winds, freezing cold gusts that seemed to come from here. They picked up speed, growing more intense until they threatened to tear us apart. We huddled together, trying to protect ourselves against the bitter chill, and just as suddenly as it began, it stopped. The air grew still once again, leaving behind a haunting silence. We pressed on deeper into the unknown depths of the labyrinth. The walls began to narrow, creating an eerie sense of claustrophobia. As we navigated through the tight spaces, I couldn't help but notice that the tunnels appeared to be ever-changing, as if they were alive and adapting to our every move. And then I heard whispers, faint voices carried on the frigid breeze. At first I thought it must have been my imagination playing tricks on me, but soon enough I realized the truth. Someone or something was talking to us. My heart raced as I strained to listen closer, barely making out the words amidst the crackling static noise. What did they want? Were they friendly, hostile, or something else altogether? Before long, the panicked members of the group started pushing each other aside, desperate to escape whatever horrors were closing in on them. I tried to calm them down, urging them to stay together and focus on finding a way out. But even my voice sounded foreign in the chaos, like it wasn't fully mine anymore. That's when I noticed it. The others weren't the only ones changing. My body felt heavier, as though some invisible force was dragging me down. With a start, I recognized the whispers from earlier, now amplified and echoing throughout the labyrinth. Join us. A sudden gust of Arctic wind sent chills down my spine, blurring my vision as I struggled to keep my balance. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught sight of grotesque silhouettes emerging from the walls of the tunnel. Twisted figures contorted into unnatural positions, their faces obscured by shadow. Fear rooted me to the spot as they slowly closed in, their presence suffocating. My mind screamed at me to run, but my legs refused to budge. And then, just as abruptly as it all began, everything went silent once more. The wind ceased, the whispers faded away, and the ghastly forms melted back into the icy walls. My limbs trembled as reality snapped back into place, leaving behind a surreal aftermath that left me reeling. Breathing heavily, I glanced warily around at my companions. Their expressions mirrored the same confusion and dread as they processed what had happened. Without any further incidents, we pushed onward, our footsteps echoing ominously throughout the labyrinth. The darkness seemed to stretch endlessly ahead, taunting us with unanswered questions and mounting fear. Each step forward brought new anxieties, but we couldn't turn back now, not knowing what kind of nightmares awaited us in the unforgiving frozen wilderness outside. It was during one of our brief rest breaks that I noticed something peculiar while rummaging through a backpack. Nestled among the supplies sat a small figurine, intricately carved from ivory. Its features bore an uncanny resemblance to the malformed apparitions we'd encountered earlier. The realization hit me like a bolt of lightning. I realized that the artifact I held might be a key to understanding this mysterious, labyrinthine underworld. Could there be more items hidden within these tunnels that related to its secrets? We quickly agreed to split up and search different areas for anything that could provide insight or clues about the bizarre events unfolding around us. After hours of fruitful searching, most of my team returned empty-handed, save for a few scattered notes scribbled on scraps of paper, hinting at a larger puzzle at play. One member, however, burst into the main chamber carrying several large containers filled with ancient documents and maps. Finds revealed the existence of an ages-old civilization that may have created the labyrinth. Documents described attempts to harness the power of ice and cold for both energy generation and spiritual ascension purposes, with horrifying consequences. But before anyone could digest the implications of these revelations, an immense temblor rocked the labyrinth, causing stalactites to crash down and blocking paths in multiple directions. A massive sinkhole opened up beneath us, threatening to swallow us whole. It became clear. Someone or something didn't want us delving too deeply into the past. Fueled by adrenaline, we quickly assessed our options and chose the path least likely to cause further cave-ins. Our route led us straight toward the source of the disruption, a central chamber filled with arcane machinery pulsing with otherworldly energies. Engulfed by a blizzard of magical ice crystals, we barely registered the figure standing atop a raised platform. The enigma that had manipulated us since our arrival stepped forward, revealing itself as one of the corrupted researchers mentioned in the documents, preserved by the powers derived from mastery over cold. With a booming voice distorted by temporal decay, it addressed us cryptically. "You mortals dare enter my domain, where none belong." This spirit of cold remained fixated on achieving their perverted goals and ensuring no living interlopers would thwart them. In a last, desperate rift that threatened to consume us all, our situation grew direr with each passing moment. Any attempt at communication failed, and soon the entity seemed to lose interest in negotiations. As if sensing our despair, tendrils of frigid mist coalesced into 3 phantasmal guardians, manifestations of its will imbued with elemental strength. They lunged at us without hesitation. We huddled together drawing upon our combined expertise to formulate a strategy. Despite the daunting challenge, we resolved to protect humanity's future at any cost, no matter how improbable success appeared. After careful planning and quick thinking, we set forth with a daring plan. As one of my colleagues took the front line, we focused our efforts on nullifying the guard's ethereal composition using various tactics based on temperature extremes. By coordinating our assaults, alternating between searing heat sources and intense pressure systems, we disrupted the entity's icy bindings. Slowly but surely, our attacks wore down their defenses until the barrier holding the spacecraft together began to crumble. Once the structure weakened enough, our final ally initiated a countdown sequence to reactivate the ship's engines. The remaining crew worked feverishly to integrate the necessary components salvaged from our previous excursion. When the ignition sequence neared completion, we readied ourselves for lift-off. Several times the Guardians attempted to halt our progress by freezing vital parts of the vessel. Swift responses managed to prevent catastrophic damage and keep the launch on track. Just as the countdown reached 0, the engines roared to life, and the Starfarer lifted off the surface. With tremendous effort, we broke through the final remains of the time rift and cleared the pull of the Singularity's gravity well. Safety beckoned us beyond the stars. Back on Earth, the United Nations formed a coalition comprising nations affected by the crisis to investigate and assess the impact of this cosmic event across the solar system. Scientific teams descended upon Titan, seeking answers. As we approached the central chamber, I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up as we stepped closer to the arcane machinery, its otherworldly energy pulsing through the air. Suddenly, a figure stepped out from the shadows, their eyes glinting with a fierce intensity. It was a woman, draped in fur and wearing an intricate headdress made of bones. Her features were sharp and angular, her skin a sickly blue hue that seemed to glow in the dim light. She regarded us with a cold detachment, her voice carrying an almost ethereal quality. "You should not have come here," she said, her words echoing through the chamber. "This place is not for the likes of you." We stood frozen in place, unsure of how to respond. The woman moved closer, her movements fluid and graceful. As she drew near, I caught sight of strange markings etched into her skin, symbols that glowed with an otherworldly power. "Do not be afraid," she said, her voice softening slightly. "I mean you no harm. But you must leave this place. It is not safe here." "But we have to find the lost expedition," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "We can't just leave them here." The woman regarded me with a piercing gaze, her eyes seeming to bore into my soul. "There is no one here but you," she said, her voice almost a whisper. "This place has been empty for centuries." I felt a cold shiver run down my spine as the realization hit me. We had been chasing a ghost, a legend that didn't exist. And yet the labyrinth still seemed to be alive, pulsing with an energy that I couldn't explain. The woman turned to leave, her headdress clattering softly as she moved. "Leave this place," she said, her voice carrying a note of warning, "before it's too late." We watched in stunned silence as she disappeared into the shadows, her presence fading away like mist in the wind. For a long moment we stood frozen in place, unsure of what to do next. And then, with a sudden burst of clarity, I knew what we had to do. We had to leave this place before it consumed us entirely. With a deep breath, I turned to my colleagues, my voice ringing out in the silence. "Let's get out of here," I said, "before it's too late." With that, we turned and fled the labyrinth, the freezing wind whipping at our backs. As we stumbled through the snow, our breaths coming in ragged gasps, I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. We had made it out alive, but at what cost? For just $3 a month, you can have your name featured in my YouTube videos and descriptions. Not only will you be supporting my channel, but you'll also be immortalized in the credits of my content. If you're looking for something a bit more personalized, consider becoming a $25 a month patron. I'll voice your stories and bring them to life on my channel. Create a special drawing just for you, or even write a unique story tailored to your interests. So don't hesitate. Join my patron community today and help me keep the spooky stories coming. And remember, together we can save each other from the YouTube algorithm. Thank you for your support.